Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to the Astrology Hub podcast. Today, we have a really, really special episode featuring two incredibly talented men. If you happen to catch our episode on soul songs last year, you know exactly what I'm talking about because we actually got to experience the music of Erik Deutsch and Gemini Brett, astrologically inspired together on that episode a year ago. I know many of you have since purchased your own soul songs, and so you listen to them on your birthday, or you listen to them when you're in a challenging time, or you it's just part of your life now. But today we actually get to experience their music again, and also with a little bit of a different flavor because we're going to be talking about how astrology and forecasting and astro harmony can all come together. So I'm very excited to be here with all of you. Thank you so much for joining. And I also, I'll introduce Gemini Brett, who many of you know, and Erik Deutsch here soon. But I wanted to start here because I've said on several different episodes that I believe, and I think a lot of you would probably concur, that we are on the verge of an astrological renaissance. We're like in the very beginning of it, and you can start to feel this groundswell of energy that's happening. And so I believe there's going to be more and more opportunities for astrology to merge with art in all of its various forms, and also to merge with business and the way that we do things in business and in our lives. So something that a lot of the astrologers said at the 2022 forecast is that there's a particular period of time next year where we are going to be having it sounds like a very inspired time. And this is when Jupiter and Neptune conjunct in Pisces. And so there's going to be this opportunity for a lot of inspiration, a lot of new ideas and approaches. And so I believe, again, that things like music and astrology are really going to come together and start to be something that we get to enjoy listening to and benefiting from. And if you are an artist, maybe this is the time where you're going to start infusing it into your work. Even if you're a business owner like me, maybe it's a time where you're going to start featuring it and having it be a part of the work that you do. So very excited to be here with these two amazing men today. And if you missed our last episode that we did around this time last year, you probably missed a little bit of the story behind Erik and Brett and how they came together, but I'd like to just recap that a little bit. So Brett, if you can just give your story briefly of how you two came together and how this project was inspired.
Well, Erik and I have been together for a long time. Erik and I met at the University of Colorado. I think I had dropped out and started a band, which was the plan anyway. That's actually was why my destination was Boulder. It was like, this is a good place to start a band. And a friend in the dorms was like, oh, you got to meet this guy, Erik Deutsch. He just came. Erik's a year younger than me in school. And he's just a phenomenal musician. It's like, great, cool. And no lie. I mean, Erik is literally one of the greatest piano players in the world today and known that way. And when he was that age, it was like 19, 20 years old. I mean, already it was just like mind blowing. And that changed my very mediocre band into this starting to be amazing band. And then Erik brought in all these wonderful musicians from jazz school. And then it became this amazing band that I just spent years trying to stay up with, which was tricky. But we toured the country around for years, and we had 7 or 8 guys alternating, and so it was just this big family with all of those pleasures and pains, and so we're brothers in many senses. I often share that we kind of started in the like 11th house is friends, and there's a 7th house of partnership, and there's like just 3rd house of brothers. Like, those kind of relationships can really shift, even astrologically speaking. So Erik, there's a very significant part in the story, which is that I called upon Erik when I wanted to give a gift to my first niece, my sister's eldest daughter, for her to enter the world. I flew to Colorado where Erik was still living at the time. And we created this record called the Baby Sessions. I mean, I should say Erik created it. I was like in this booth, being like, hey, man, like take a walk in the woods with this one, and like those were the kind of production notes. But Erik at the end, he was like, hey, man, I really like how you produce records or whatever. And he played some of his original compositions and some compositions of famous people. There was a Bjork song and a Tom Waits song, and some of the local kind of heroes of ours in the jazz scene in Colorado, who Erik very soon after they were our idols started playing with. I mean, fair enough summary of that project, I think, Erik.
Yeah, that sounds good.
All right. So Whitney entered the world to this amazing solo piano record. It's just very gentle. Erik is like, I mean, he can play fast and really hard and rock, and he's played with all these big rock bands and whatnot, but he has a very kind of sensitive ability to approach the piano and just get into the heart, you know? And so Whitney, and then later her younger brother, Kyle, and then their younger sister, Paige, like grew up on this Baby Sessions record. And I mean, Whitney's probably heard it as much as I have. And I used to go to bed. It's just a really beautiful record. And so at one point, a couple of years ago, I had a client who asked me to do a reading for her new baby. I had done an astrology reading for her twins some years before. And she said it was really helping, especially in the hard times, right? But, you know, when she asked for this reading for the child, I was just in a personal existential crisis in regards to astrology, as I often am, and felt like it would be too much to start talking about this child's relationship capacities and stuff. She had just come into the world, you know, it's tricky. And so I had been talking for some time about working with a musical expression of a chart. And certainly this has been done before. And I was kind of tooling around with my system and with clients that I would sit with at my home at the time. Sometimes I'd go over to the piano and kind of play some of the tensions in their chart. Like if it wasn't coming through in words and not invoking like response, I just go play it. And it was amazing, these things that were happening in sessions, right? So yeah, I talked to Erik and was like, hey man, let's do this song. And I didn't tell the client what I was doing. I was like, here's your reading. She just asked me to record the thing. I was like, here you go, like play it for her. And this was like, for me, and the girl's name amazingly was Melody. It was either Melody or Harmony. I'm forgetting now. So it was just like obvious, you know? And the parents didn't say like, that's not what we paid for. They were like, oh my God, this is so great. And she loves it. And then Erik and I kind of taught this technique at our friend's school in Mexico City, where Erik's now living. And we just started creating songs for people. And I think it's a really beautiful way for people to experience their chart, not just in mind and words, but in the body and in the feels. When you speak about this renaissance of astrology, Amanda, like I couldn't agree with you more. You and I have had that conversation many times. And I mean, we're in a strange place with astrology in general, where there's this fear of a divide, because now all this traditional predictive technique is coming back. And I love that stuff, but it's very different than what they call like the modern psychological. And there's this like you're one or the other thing. But I think as those two streams come back together, like that's this renaissance. And older than those old Hellenistic things, it's Pythagoras, you know, like striking the hammer on strings. And like people say that was the first science, like the science of harmony and relationship, and seeing how these different vibrations come together. And this idea of the music of the spheres goes all the way back. You know, where I am in my own astrology right now, where I've been, it's like in a conversation with the sky, in this trying to understand astrology, not just from the rules I was taught from one paradigm's point of view or another's, but like trying to like actually have an experience of it. The music has helped me so much. And yeah, it's one of the reasons why I'm so excited to share with you today about the kind of recent updates of this project, because I've just been like shocked that this project is re-informing who I am as an astrologer, and therefore who I am as a human being. I mean, it's like really significant in my growth right now.
Amazing. Okay. And just a few cliff notes on Erik's career since the band. Erik, give us an idea of some of the artists that you play with today and what's happened.
Yeah, after the band in Boulder, I stuck around Boulder and taught a lot and grew as a musician in my early 20s. Played with a lot of the folks in Colorado that, like Brett said, that were had been our idols when we were younger. rock bands like Devachka and the Motet and Cabaret Diosa, which were big Colorado bands, and jazz artists like Art Landy and Ron Miles, Fred Hess, who were big Colorado, and still are jazz figures. I then moved to New York, and when I was in my late 20s, and spent 15 years in Brooklyn. And I grew up on rock and roll, country music. My mom's from Nashville. I lived there as a kid, and jazz was kind of my third, or pop, rock, country, and then jazz. So I really had a foundation for all this. And when I went to New York, I think I had the opportunity to really dig into all of it, and notably working with Nora Jones and Citizen Cope and Shooter Jennings and Roseanne Cash and many. Oh, Charlie Hunter was a big gig for me, but many jazz artists in New York City, and really become part of that fabric there. And most recently, in the last 5 years, an old jam band from Colorado, Leftover Salmon. I've always kept those Colorado roots, and I worked with Leftover Salmon a lot, which is a 33-year band now in the bluegrass kind of jamgrass scene. And then with the Dixie Chicks, I worked just before the pandemic, and I continued to do my own music, to work with my wife, can collaborate frequently with her, and just kind of leave the door open for all musical possibilities.
Amazing. And now we have you here at Astrology Hub. Incredible. Like, wow, that's incredible. So, all right, let's talk about how you do this. And before we do that, I just wanted to say, if you are an Inner Circle member, or if you're considering becoming an Inner Circle member, make sure you stay till the end, because there are some very, very special gifts for you. So I'm just going to just drop that. Just don't go anywhere. There are some amazing things you're going to be super excited about. So we are in our open enrollment period for the Inner Circle. It's open until next Tuesday. So if you're considering it, stick around. It's these kinds of things that we're doing for our Inner Circle members all the time. Special little perks and bonuses and things that are just, when the inspiration comes in, we go, yes, let's do that for our members. So you're going to get to learn about that at the end. All right. So my first question is, how do you get from the astrological chart, so either a person or an event or whatever, you get from the chart itself to the music? What does that look like?
Right. So I'm going to start with a little 60-second video. Demonstration is the wrong word. I don't know what to call it, but here we go. Okay, so let me talk about what just happened there. And I want to get a particular part of that on screen. First of all, that was a little bit, I think the beginning bit of the soul song that Erik created for you, Amanda, right? So I'm sure you're familiar with it.
I recognize it.
I later added that saxophone. All these soul songs have been from Erik, have been solo piano pieces.
That sounded great, Brett. I like that a lot.
It's probably your first time you heard it, right?
I heard that with the sax. That was super cool. You sound awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been a bit since Erik and I got to play together. So, but in that weird way. Yeah, I did that when I taught the Sacred Astronomy course for Astrology Hub this year. I was wonderful because I've taught astronomy for astrologists, one of my principal devotions in many places. But for Astrology Hub, I really got to teach it in the way that I want to, which is like more mystical. And so there was a lot of the sacred geometry in it. So in the day, I'll just say that really we would study the quadrivium, it was called, like the number magic kind of systems, the sacred sciences. And astrology is basically the rainbow bridge between astronomy and then like the quality correspondences. And astronomy is called number in time and space. And then it's like there's this diamond of number itself and number in space, which is geometry. Sacred geometry is going to be easier to hear. And then number in time, which is frequency, which is harmony. And that so this the student of the mysteries would engage with like the magic of number in nature itself, with the sacred geometry tradition, with the sacred harmony tradition. That leads to a greater understanding of the astronomy. And now when we have that embodied experience of the heavenly happenings, right? I mean, like physically, astronomically, then we have this intimate experience and expression of their mysteries of the correspondences, right? That's like an old mystery school path. So all of my private students, they start with a compass. Because here, and this is the pattern, it's called the seed of life. And that was a really quick demonstration. But basically, if you want to draw the 12-spoked wheel, the zodiac, it's created out of this. This is something we actually find in human development from a single cell through mitosis. I mean, it's an amazing thing. And importantly, it's 6 circles of equal size stitched around a center circle, the circle of spirit, of equal size. And some say it's the 7 days of creation, and we could go on and on and on. But importantly, there's this 7ness to create 12ness. And what you'll find in the seed as like an inner circle, pun intended, of, a 6-petaled flower. And we could say that those are like the inner signs, the earth and the water signs. And then there's also an outer 6-petaled flower, like the air and the fire signs, right? So you get this polarity of 6 and 6. And we need 12, and this is kind of what I'm showing here. We need 12 to have triplicity and quadruplicity, right? So we call those like elements and modalities in astrology. So there's this great question of why 12 in astrology, like why 12 signs? The astronomical answer is the 12 moons a year, but that's really tricky because there's, depending on how you choose to moon, there's either 12.37 or 13.37. We'll find our way back to that conversation here. In the musical situation, now there's many different ways to create tone and organize them. Like many cultures have had many different approaches, but in the Western musical tradition, there are 12 notes in an octave, right? So when I go to C to the next C, we hear these 12 notes. And that, actually, Erik, could you just run a chromatic scale from anywhere?
Sure, here's from C to C. And then C.
Can you play the C major scale also from the same octave? Cool. So that diatonic scale, we call it, it's really 7 notes, and then the octave, the 8th, is the first doubled. And then the chromatic is 12. In astrology, of course, we have our 7 planetas, meaning the wanderers. So Sun, Moon, and Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn, right? The traditional 7 planets, the 7 alchemical metals, the 7 days of the week. Folks who later, when you're done with this, if you want to see more, go back to that seed of life figure and you'll actually see 24 unique geometries. Those are the 24 hours, which are necessary in the magical tradition of how we do days and weeks. And it goes on and on and on, wheels within wheels. In the musical harmony tradition, we have, at least in this Western approach, we have these 12 notes in an octave, 12 half tones, or we often use modes or scales that are composed of 7 tones. So you get that same thing of the 7 and the 12. Like where the 12 come from, where the 7 come from in nature, like physically, is a bit of a tricky thing. And it's not as clean. And the astronomy is, if we look at these moons, it's like not as clean. With the geometry, it's just right there, right? So as we're studying these different crafts, we start to learn to embody these things, right? So there have been many approaches to take a chart or take an astronomical moment and express it harmonically. Now, I was maybe first turned on to the idea just through research, but then very specifically through a friend of mine called Ezra Sanzer Bell, who has a book called Astro Music with a K. All right. He actually has 2 now. And with a K because he's very much from the magical tradition. And he was using a system that comes out of OTO, which is like Aleister Crowley's, society, in a place that I just personally don't like to play too much. And it seems to reach back a little further into maybe the Rosicrucian system. And it's very similar to the system I'm using. Let me show you an image of that. Except we're both using what's called a chromatic map. And the chromatic are those 12 tones, those 12 half tones in an octave that Erik just played. So let's see. Here's a good image. Hopefully this is on the screen. Yeah, it looks like my mouse is going around.
It is. It's quite small, but we can see it.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest one I've got here. But this is the second Capricorn new moon of 2022. And I have it aligned in a 0 Aries wheel, or the so-called natural zodiac wheel. And this is what we are using. We're like, okay, A is Aries, the key of A, or the note A. A sharp or B flat, depending on who you ask, kind of the same thing. We align with Taurus, and then B is Gemini and C is Cancer. So just as you go up the piano, you're going through the 12 signs, right? And there's many, many ways to do this. And in Ezra's work, or in that old kind of Rosicrucian model, the planets also have their own notes. We're not doing that. We're using a much simpler system. Part of my intention with that is like, no, a lot of the magic is actually going to come through Erik and in the moment. And when we're doing people's birth charts, as he speaks their name, I've asked him to kind of like just say out loud their birth time and place. And that for me, it kind of calls in the energetic, just as I do in readings, and it just kind of centers us into that place. And then it's going to come through the music, So why we're here again today, I'm just honored to be, is we've done a very different thing with this year. And I would let you ask any questions you have maybe before we go there, Amanda.
Well, I would before we go to the new project, I'd love to just, you just started to touch on your process for each person's birth chart. So when our community orders a soul song, what I heard is you have Erik speak the name, the birthplace, the time out loud. And what else do you do to instruct him on how to actually use the astrology?
Right. So let me tune you into notes. And I gotta say, it's changed a bunch. Like my astrology changes a bunch. The system we're using has been the same. Cancer equals C, Aries equals A, like that. If you have 4 planets in Cancer, it's like a lot of C. That's like one of the challenges to this system. It's maybe a little bit too simple. It's going to be helpful once we are able to expand and have like larger bands.
Right.
And so then 4 different instruments go and get there. And Erik, in this project we're on right now, there is this one where I just wrote for him. It's like, hey man, all sorts of F, like everything you can do with F, because there's all these planets in Sagittarius, which is F in our map. And I asked him actually in this project to prepare the piano, as it's called. So there's places where he's got a piece of paper on the strings to make it buzz, or pencils in there, or he's using his hand on the strings. And so we can get not only like the different octaves or the different pedals of the piano, but these different sounds. Your song actually really was one of the most significant revolutions to my approach. Before, I was really kind of giving Erik notes that looked not only like the harmony translations of astronomical happenings, which I'll show you, but it was like, hey, do like kind of like a rock and roll feel or something like that. And then it was like, wait, it's like, that's Erik's department. Like for me, I just need to, like that time when we were doing the baby sessions and I was like, take a walk in the woods. Like that's what I need to give. Because very much thanks to Astrology Hub last year, where we did a Christmas special and then kept it going, we've done like 300 of these things now. I think we've done like 200 of them through Astrology Hub, actually. And a true testament to the project is every song, though I like ask him to have kind of a similar kind of pathway, the keys will change based on the chart. They all sound different. I mean, it's amazing. For the hundreds of songs on one instrument from one musician, and they really all have their own thing. And the feedback we're getting from people is incredible. And so what I'm doing now, and I mean, sometimes I have to imagine Erik's just like cracking up at the piano, because I'm sharing not only these like harmony notes. Let me show like the production notes for one of these moons. So this is the second Capricorn new moon of 2022. Let me go up a little further and I'll show you. This is the chart. I know it's really little on the lower right here. This one's what's called solar sign, where because it's a Capricorn new moon, I just make a Capricorn first house. And then Capricorn in our system is either F sharp or G flat. Erik prefers flats, so we went G flat here. I'm just noticing this is kind of messed up or backwards. But anyway, so he just has these notes. We call it the palette. And he's asked to focus on the visible planets and for these new moons for the nodes. And then he's got to kind of create a song within that limitation. Now, this is one of the ways that this current project has completely reinformed my astrology and changed the way that I'm thinking about what next year is and how it's going to begin. So he gets things like this, like, all right, hey, there's this Venus, Lilith, Uranus nodes, mystic rectangle, which is like an aspect figure in the chart. Here, play this musically. And then I just give him this symbol, an ancient ritual in a forgotten stone circle under the stars. Right now, like how I'm going to experience that symbol is very different than how Erik is. But I just want to paint for him these like almost like movie scenes, right, that will help stimulate what he's doing. So if I have the same kind of aspect figure like a square in somebody's chart, what I've been talking for a long time, if you got this really strong square, where's the trine? Like there's this tension and then there's this release place. And sometimes it'll show up in life, like you have a really hard time with your dad and you became an artist, you know, and like that kind of thing. But if I just say that for 200 songs, right, like I'm sure I would bore this musician out of our partnership. So instead I give him, you know, a ritual in a stone circle and see what happens. And that for me, it's the same thing. Like I'm just trying to tune into the dream. Sometimes I literally see these things. Sometimes I've heard from people like, what are you talking about? An alien abduction in the woods? Like that never happened. I'm like, it's just like this vision. But sometimes I hear from people like, oh my God, that exact thing happened when I was 23 years old. Like literally, you just described, it's like weird. And I'm seeing that all the time from people. Like that's been really positive feedback. And then also like what we're hearing from people about, wow, I've had this like long standing kind of disassociation with a traumatic thing. And listening to this part of the song has really pushed it through. Mm-hmm. So I think that also, I mean, I remember we surprised Amanda with her song during the podcast. I was like, no warning. I was like, we're just going to play this. And I use a lot of my own kind of star photography of things happening in Hawaii to make a video out of it. And it was powerful, but you know, that'd be one thing to do for somebody / to somebody if the song was just all pretty and easy, and there's certainly those parts, but then there's parts where it's really challenging, right? And that's how it should sound because that's a human experience.
Right. Yeah. So, okay, let's go to you've alluded to the new project, but let's speak specifically to that and then also play something from it. So the new project is looking at all the new moons of 2022 and actually mapping the astrology musically so that people can have an experience through the year of the coming tides. I mean, it's truly like the rhythms, the harmonies that will be in our lives, correct?
Yeah, right. I mean, so this is a thing we do in forecasting. Astrology Hub has been, and I really honor this, instead of like, okay, the sun has moved into the sign of Capricorn, it's Capricorn season. Like, let's look at the Capricorn lunation. Let's look at the new moon to the full moon. And when it becomes new again, there's just something about the energies coming together, right? So that's one way we can celebrate a month. So to circle back to the trick of the Y12 astronomically, like the year of 2022, if you prefer the Empire Pope's Gregorian calendar, will actually have 13 new moons. So we have a new moon on November 2nd and then one on December 23rd, both in the sign of Capricorn, right? So about every 3 years, we'll have 13 new moons in a calendar year instead of 12. So that in of itself kind of shakes things up. But yeah, we can often get a deep feel for the month ahead by tuning into the chart, like the astronomical aspects, the happenings with the planets at that new moon time. Right. So, I mean, ideally, I would do all the new moons and the full moons and more. And Erik and I have been doing some ceremonies where we've been recording new moons or full moons. Or last month, I was the guide for Inner Circle, and Erik recorded a new moon and a full moon, which was the Taurus lunar eclipse song. And we just use those as vehicles for people's unfoldment and intention setting and challenges and ease, you know. And yeah, there's a thing about this, which is nice. And I think Erik would be better to speak to this, which, because we're not looking at some person's chart specifically, you can kind of take the gloves off a little bit, right? You don't have to come in so easy. So Erik, do you want to say anything about the difference between doing this for like a person versus an event like a new moon?
Yeah, I think it's as simple as that. When we're recording soul songs for people, for them personally, or for gifts, I really visualize the person listening to the song for the first time. And it's really important that that experience would overall be a positive experience, you know, and meaning I'm careful I'm searching for harmonies within the palette that I'm given that matches to that person's chart. I'm searching for harmonies of consonants and beauty. And I'm searching for beautiful things. As much as I'm willing to expose more tense or discordant things, I really search for the beautiful things and try to exist in that realm, wherever that is in that person's chart. In this experience, recording the new moon songs, I was, you know, it's always an experience in the moment for me, because these are improvisations. I'm not planning too much ahead. I'll look at the charts and make notes and study Brett's guidance. But in my experience last night, in the moment, I realized really quickly, wow, I have a different kind of freedom with these. It's not really a take the gloves off. We can be like dark. We can be nasty. It's more like I can do anything. It can be anything it wants to be. You know, it can be. Oh, hi. It can be. You know, I just felt more cinematic with it, and that the songs I could go different directions. And Brett helped me a lot with his guidance on these, because there was very succinct 1 or 2 sentence descriptions of each new moon. Mm-hmm. And that right there, they told stories that felt like I could illustrate them like I was scoring a film. And right away, it's like, oh, and you don't have to worry about someone's personal experience, more just creating an overall story, a travelogue, and something more like an album, which is something I do have a lot of experience doing. So, you know, making a nice album is something I've been trying to do for 25 years. And anyway,
been doing quite successfully.
Oh, thanks. But it was really fun and really exciting and exhilarating to go through it. And I'm excited for people to hear what we came up with.
Yeah, so the process, I mean, speaking of travelogue, one of the kind of song, quote unquote, titles, I think, was Teams of Siblings in a nationwide photograph scavenger hunt, right? And so it's like, that's like the title of the song, go play that, right? And you know, this was the first time. There's a few things. One, like the soul songs for individual people. Sometimes we've had like a family order 4 songs, right? And then that's a little bit different, because we got to make sure we've got that variety thing going on. Because on all the personal chart soul songs, I ask Erik to start with kind of a lullaby vibe in the key of the moon. And then it goes through the sun and all these different things. Are too much to explain here, right? But there's a general kind of path. They all sound different. They all do different things. This time we're like, okay, it's going to be 13 songs, a song for each of the new moons of 2022. And so it's got to have shape. It's got to start somewhere. It's got to be itself a whole thing. It's got to be a record, a concept album, you know? So we met and rapped about it. And, you know, I have my ideas of what an Aries new moon is supposed to be. And this is where I'm talking about my own evolution through this project as an astrologer, as a human being, because like, why do because somebody told me what Aries is, because what, you know, is happening where I live when the sun is in Aries, you know, those things, right? And sometimes the chart, it just doesn't speak that. So Erik and I got together. It's like, oh, hey, well, you play these notes. These are the notes available this month. And it's like, ooh, that's not what I thought it was at all. And the charts at the beginning of the year, like, let me just share this, and people probably have seen this, and it came up in the on the forecast for Astrology Hub this year, because it's just like undeniable, kind of rare and strange astrology. But if you look at the new moons, for the first like many months of the year, this is the Capricorn and Aquarius and Pisces, all of the planets are in a bowl. They're all between the nodes. So when I'm doing this thing of giving Erik like a specific note for each sign, and you only have like half of the signs and it's all grouped together, sometimes 4 or 5, it's a real challenge for a musician. I mean, fortunately, Erik's just a master, you know. So we were smoking. I was like, man, do we need to like change the rules here, or should I do this other kind of map? Because it's like all clustered together. And he's like, no, it'll just be music. And he made magic with it, right? But him just actually sitting down and playing these notes, I'm like, I have this idea that this is what this new moon is, but he plays the sounds. I'm sitting there, I'm receiving. It's like, wow, I'm just wrong.
Wow.
Like
Okay, let's go to it, Brett. Let's
yeah.
So I know we have one song. Which new moon are we listening to?
Well, I don't want to say. We're going to make it a mystery. I would love for
Okay.
these people here live right now, and your comment thing is available to you. So, couple things. One, I'm very interested in just hearing what kind of feelings you have while you're listening to this. So listen more than type, but maybe type a thing. The other thing is, guess which sign it is. So it's one of the 12 signs. It's a 7-minute thing. So we'll just mute ourselves and
all right,
listen
everybody
in.
sit back, relax, and enjoy.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
It's going to start right in. So Ends.
It ends. Oh my gosh, we have so many amazing guesses and comments from the community here. It's just gorgeous. It's epic.
Oh,
It's beautiful. Oh my goodness. It's just it's incredible every time that I hear your music, and just to know the process that you guys go through in creating this is just epic. Okay, so a lot of the guesses were Pisces. Pisces got a lot of guesses. That's my guess too. And then there was several Capricorn, Sagittarius came up, Scorpio came up. So what's the answer?
Like one was like Scorpio, Sagittarius, Capricorn. It's like cool. Like
Uh-huh.
hedge your bets.
Yeah.
Capricorn mathematically is a good guess too, because there's actually 2 Capricorn new moons. But the most common response was Scorpio. Win for the community, absolutely. The Scorpio new moon next year is October 25th. And my birthday is October 24th, and Erik's is October 26th. So I couldn't not go there.
We should have known that.
And yeah, but you know what? I think it's important to say, and we're really shy on time, so I'll do this quickly, but let me share just that section of my production notes. Or first of all, the chart, right? Because folks are like, oh, Gemini and Aries. Yes, because Jupiter's in Aries, I mean, retrograde at the 1st degree. And then the moon's in Scorpio. So traditionally, the dispositor is Mars, who's in Gemini, and the way that they're connected, right? So just some of the symbols that Erik got for me in that one were a woman drops acid at a Grateful Dead show. This is officially the end of the life in which she has referred to herself as housewife. As the waters pull away from the Indian coastline before a tsunami strikes, an ancient city is revealed. Could this be the mythic city of Krishna? Hang gliding on jumpy wind currents above turbulent ocean waters. A man awakens in the hospital after a 3-month coma. And that, I like that last one I really heard. And then the main thing was a dragon eats the sun and the world goes dark for a minute before the dragon disappears to reveal the light reborn. And clearly an image for an eclipse, because that Scorpio new moon next year is a solar eclipse right between our birthdays. So we'll see how that plays. But yeah, I was really loving tracking these comments. And the first one was IK4. It was just like Scorpio. Judy Taylor Fox, like Scorpio. Like the people who wrote Scorpio were like a little more even confident, I'll say.
Right. It was like, it's Scorpio. Yes.
Yeah. And they're, it's so far up there now, because thank you so much for your participation, folks who are here live. But there was this really beautiful thing written, and really early too. It was like catching the vibe. Oh, I missed it, but it was just like all of these wonderful anticipation, stirring, rising action, jubilee, drama, emotion, focus. And you can hear a bunch of those in like the notes that I wrote. And so they come through, Erik, so beautifully. So if I had time now, I would next play for you Gemini, because it's about as different from that song as you can imagine. The song before, Libra, was like this gospel funk thing, which I was not anticipating at all. And then when I heard that, I went back to the chart and was like, oh yeah, I get it. And
Wow.
that's going to have me approach Libra month a little bit differently, personally, probably professionally as well. So this project this year, it's just next level. And we have Astrology Hub to just send extreme gratitude for, because as it's been the tradition for jazz musicians throughout the years, there's always been like a patron angel, right? And it's really cool. Like we have that experience here because Amanda, maybe you can share, I guess, the news.
Yes. Okay. So this is the special announcement for our inner circle members. We have basically, this is your gift. So we are giving all of our inner circle members this album as a special gift, just to say thank you. We love you, and to help us accompany like our entire year and use the music to really infuse all the different things that we're learning. So this is our gift to you, inner circle members. You will get this album, the entire album, with the notes and everything. It'll be in your membership portal on the solstice. So this is our solstice gift to you. And then for our inner circle members also, you get a huge discount on soul songs. So if you're interested in getting your own personal soul song done, and or if you want to get some for holiday gifts, you can do that. All the details for how to do that are in your membership portal. So you have a special link and you get a special discount. And then what else was I going to say? Oh, yes. If you want to do that for Christmas, you have to order today. There's a limited number and also limited time. So if you do want to get a soul song, so this is where they take your personal chart and get a song just for you and or for people in your life, today is the day to do it. If you're not an Inner Circle member, you can still get all these things. You can buy the album and you can get a soul song, and they're both available. Okay, so go to astrologyhub.com/soulsong if you're not an Inner Circle member, and you will get the opportunity to buy a soul song for yourself or people in your life. Or you can join the Inner Circle today and get the special pricing on the soul songs and also get the album. And so if you want to become an Inner Circle member, you go to astrologyhub.com/innercircle2022. And again, if you want to do this all before the holidays, you got to do it today. But if you miss this deadline, you can still get the songs. They're going to be doing songs through January. So if you have, if you want to get one, I highly recommend having a soul song for yourself for your birthday, because it is this ritual that I now have gotten to do twice. And it's so special to just listen to your soul song on your birthday. It's like brings you back to why you're here and that big picture and that music in your heart. So it's really beautiful. Am I forgetting anything, Brett?
Is it okay if I share the price?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. So before I do, another note is, we've done solar return charts. So we have one client who had his birth chart done, and now 2 solar returns already for last year and this year, which is fun. We've done a first kiss. We take 2 charts and make 1 chart out of them using what's called the Davison relationship chart, right? We've done a marriage. We've done a death moment, actually. So anything we can cast a chart for, we can make a song for too. We've charged like anywhere from $300 to $400 over the years. Our price right now is $333, but for Astrology Hub community members, that's all of you, it's $288 right now. So you can receive that price even if you don't get on our list to have a song delivered before Christmas. We're going to be able to do, Erik's travel plan just got delayed, so we're probably going to be able to do 40 more. And you'll just see when you go to order it that it's like, we will deliver by solstice. If that's gone, then we're going to deliver in January, and that note will be there as well. So
okay,
if you need this,
$288 for all Astrology Hub community.
Yeah, and for Inner Circle members, $247.
$247 for Inner Circle members. Okay.
One of like many amazing gifts that Inner Circle members get. If you've been considering becoming an Inner Circle member, do it. Like, no doubt. The amazing amount of access you get to astrologers personally, like the different voices, the different teachings. It's, especially if you're a student of astrology right now, it is a wonderful place to be, but most importantly, community. I also want to share that if you're not in this Inner Circle, if that's not happening for you right now, you can go over to Erik's Bandcamp page. So Erik Deutsch, spelled like this, what you see on the right. And there is a Song of the Soul, 13 New Moons of 2022. We're selling it for $7. If you are in the Inner Circle and you're going to receive this, as Amanda said, in your portal, if you want to come over here and give a donation to buy one for a friend or something like that, we sure would appreciate it. But you can go there right now and just sample all of these different songs and hear how different they are. You heard Scorpio already. I check out the Gemini one. It's so distinctly different from that one. I think it would kind of be a cool place to start for those of you that have heard this live. And as this was how do I stop the share? If somebody who's in control over there could stop the share. Oh, here it is. Thank you. Astrology Hub basically was our patron for this, like gave us the funds necessary for Erik and for myself to allocate the necessary time, which was a lot, as we anticipated it would be, so we could get this done. So we have so much gratitude for you, Amanda, and for Astrology Hub. It really was a gift for us in this project, but I mean, it's been a huge gift for me as a human being that I will continue to unwrap. So I'm in deep gratitude. Thank
Oh
you.
my gosh, same. It's such a mutual thing because to have the caliber of talent available to us to create astrological music, it's like, how could I not support that? That's like the best thing ever. So thank you so much to you both. I know you put your heart and soul into every soul song you do and into this album. And now we get to like journey with you throughout the year. And just knowing, Erik, that for you, it was like this, you know, you got to create like a score to a movie. And really, like, isn't that kind of what life is? Like, we're going through, it's like we're in our own movie, our own story. We're like living life and having the musical background of it.
Mm.
You know, we have our own like soundtrack. That's the coolest thing ever. So thanks to you both. Really appreciate it. We're putting all the links that you need in the description of these shows. So please check the description for any links that you're like, wait, what was that? We'll have those there. And I just appreciate both of you very much and can't wait to share your gifts and your incredibleness with this community once again. So
Thank
thanks,
you,
you guys.
Amanda.
Yeah.
And,
Thanks
you
so much.
I saw on Erik's chart that there's going to be a new opportunity for a really big band. So I don't know what our timing's going to be like.
Let's get him while we have him.
But we're also
guys.
maybe scheming into doing more of a compositional approach for the new moons of 2023 and getting like a full band together.
Yeah.
So more of that later. Anyway, thank you, Amanda.
Okay.
Happy solstice to you.
Happy solstice
everyone
to
out
you.
there.
Happy solstice to everybody here. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being a part of our community. If you're not a part of the inner circle yet, now's the time to do it. Enrollment closes on Tuesday. You'll get this special album, plus all kinds of amazing things that we have for our members. So check it out, astrologyhub.com/inner circle 2022. Take care, everybody. And thank you so much for being here. All right. Bye-bye.
Look at you go. The storm isn't over, but you're still here. And you didn't know, yeah. You go past your limit, but you're still here. And who knows what's coming next, what's going on the next step. When Pluto comes around, who cares, you're here and now, no other than. So come on, my friend, come give yourself a round, 'cause you made it and you're here. Now who would have known? The light would go out, but you keep shining. And we've all had our moments unspeakable. But look at it, Jupiter in Pisces, it's okay. Let the wave just wash it all away. Let the water cleanse your palate and your soul. 'Cause who knows what's coming next, what's going on the next step. When Saturn binds you down, so you can find the solid ground beneath your feet. So come on with me, come give yourself a round, 'cause you made it and you're here.